And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first webinar of 2016. This is Jeremiah, and Amanda's going to be showing off plant templates. And we've also got Jake here. So any questions come up, feel free to type them in to that questionnaire. We'll be getting to those. In fact, I see we already got a great question from Gabriella that, in fact, this is exactly one of the things that we will be covering. The thing I really like about this subject of plant templates is, without fail, it is the answer to a lot of questions, but particularly across the gamut. That's why we really like it, and that's why we decided to start with this one for the first webinar of the year. When we show off the software to people who don't have it, the answer to a lot of questions is plant templates. But to even seasoned users, a lot of times they'll come at us with some things, and we'll go, you could solve that with plant templates. It really is not only the perfect answer to someone who's diving into the software. Inevitably they'll say, how do I organize my plants, blah blah blah, and we go plant templates. But it is also the perfect example of the real power usage of the software. So this webinar is going to absolutely apply to someone who's used this software for literally 10 years as much as someone's used it for 10 minutes. So that being said, this is being recorded and it's going to be available on Monday. So we got a nice full house, a lot of new faces and a lot of old faces. They'll be great. Do chime in with a lot of questions. That I'm going to stop my rambling now that I hit my 2-minute mark and hand this over to Amanda.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeremiah, and hello, everybody, and welcome on this wonderful Friday. For those of you watching this as a recording later, go ahead and pretend it's Friday for around the next 45 minutes. As Jer mentioned, we're going to be talking about a topic, though, that I am really into as well, and that's organizing with templates. Hopefully at least a few of you watching are like me, get really frustrated doing a repetitive task that I know could be automated. Or maybe you're a project manager who's really tired of correcting the same mistakes over and over and over again. Or you're a principal or sole practitioner who wants to see the time spent on drafting and training just drop. So a plant template in your arsenal will do all of these things for you. It will make training a recent graduate or a new employee a lot easier and cut down on drafting time because these people can focus on choosing the right plant at the right size instead of fretting over making a mistake while trying to manually edit the particulars of each plant every time. It takes out some of the errors that can happen with constantly doing data input on plants every single time you do a project. So that can help reduce the errors in your project. So by doing that, your project managers can focus their plan reviews on important things, giving more time to catch more important edits or design things that need to be caught instead of constantly checking, is that plant at the right size? Is that plant at the right cost? Is that plant spelled correctly? Are the notes correct for exactly what this plant needs? While those are important things to learn, it can lead to a lot of errors if it's always being inputted manually every single time you start the project. Basically, just think of it as you wouldn't ask somebody to recreate your letterhead formatting every single time that they write a letter for your company. So the goal of this webinar is to stop doing that for plants. So what we're going to be going over today in this webinar is basically, first, where do you start? You're just trying this out for the first time. I see a lot of people saying they're trying to learn a new trick for the new year, and so where do you start? How do you tackle this beast that is templates? It's actually very easy, and we'll go over that. We'll go over some ideas for how to organize things because every firm is going to be different, and so you need to think about and plan how you're going to organize your template because that will lead to a successful template and a lot of time reduced in the long run. Then we'll go on and actually create a template, and then we'll actually use that template. We'll do some follow-up, like what you should do once you've created a template and how you should keep that template healthy and always organized. And then I know there were already some questions that came in. So at the end of this, I'm also going to add in editing that template afterwards. Best practices on what you should do if you need to edit the template. And then also if you need to print a list of all the plants in the template, how do you do that? So we'll go over that. Okay, so down at the bottom of this page, you'll see I have a link to a knowledge base page that would also be good if you want to look up even more data on or more information on this topic. And you don't need to memorize that URL. You can just go to our web page. Here, I'll show you that. If we go down here to landfx.com, if you go down under support to documentation, you'll see here there is a search bar that you can just type in templates. And it's going to be the first one on the list. And you can do this for most topics in LandFX if you haven't already tried this out. You don't always need to go to that documentation page. You can if you see a search bar up here at the top, you can also search in there. So that's a really easy way to get a little bit more on this topic afterwards. We'll go back here. And we're going to start with where do I start? Now, I know that everybody's going to have a lot of questions. You can type those into the question box, into the Q&A box, and if we can answer it on the fly, then we will. Otherwise, I'll have a spot a little later where I'll address any questions that came up that would be good to kind of show off during the webinar. So where do you start? So first scenario is you're a brand new user and you're watching this webinar and you want to do this right the first time. So there's a few key points to getting started with a template if you're a brand new user. First, you want to start or recreate some old projects. So either start a few new projects or recreate a few old projects, just redraw them using the LandFX tools. Do about 2 or 3 or however many make you comfortable with using the LandFX tools, because the important part about this is that if you want your template to be correct, then you should have a little bit of experience with LandFX under your belt, because you want to make sure that when you create the plants, you are including all of the information that you want in your plants. So, and then you want to do the projects, and then what you're going to do is use those projects to start your template later. So that's the first thing that you want to do, is start a few projects, learn how to use the program correctly, and get all your settings in there, all your customization in there for your preference set, get all of that done. Next, you'll want to collaborate in a team, maybe with a leader. A team can be 2 people, it can be 5 people, however many you want. It's good to have a leader on that team who can kind of make a decision and decide, okay, we have all of these ideas, let's go with this one, I think this is the best one, so that you can move on with creating the template and not spend too much time in the planning stage. But you never want to organize with just a leader unless you're a sole practitioner. And the reason for that is that you have a lot of people in your office with a lot of expertise, and you want to use that expertise. And you also don't want to, there's usually a problem where if you're just one person in a team is trying to organize everything, they don't necessarily think like everybody else in the team. So it would be good to get other ideas on how best to organize things in your plant list as a group, and agree on it, because otherwise you're just going to face problems as you go down the line on people thinking that, oh, this wasn't a great way to organize it, and getting frustrated and not being able to find things. So kind of get that out in the beginning. So once you have that collaboration, you're going to have a clear plan and you're going to stick to it. So you're not going to deviate to it. You're going to have a clear plan that says, okay, when I add a plant, it's going to have this kind of a symbol. So if I add a new plant to the template later on, it's going to have this kind of symbol. The name is going to be this way. The code is going to be that way. This is how we get to a cost for the plant. Basically, you're going through all of the items under the edit plant window and going through all of them and figuring out, okay, how do we decide what that plant should be in the template? Keeping in mind this plant should usually be something a little more generic so that you can use it across, and you can always edit a plant as you add it to a project. So you can put something in the template and then you can fine tune it later when you add it to a project, because when you add a plant from a template to a project, it's actually a copy. So next, you want to organize your template for efficiency and clarity. We'll go over some ways to organize it in a few slides. And next, you want to start your template projects and import plants. So you're going to import plants from other projects. You're going to maybe add some new plants, anything that you need to do to get all that together and get a robust template together. Then finally, you're going to edit that template as necessary using a local nursery database. Ideally, you can also use, maybe you've done cost estimates or have bid tenders from contractors in the area. And you might want to use things like that to determine costs and what kind of notes need to be in there and everything like that. So you're basically fine-tuning your template so that it's ready to use, and the next time you use it in a project, it's going to be everything that you need. So the next scenario then is you've been using LandFX for a while, but now you want to be more efficient. You have a lot of projects and you're realizing that maybe you're not using the software to the fullest potential, and you definitely want to get into templates to save some more time. So it's the same process actually. The only thing in here in these key points is that you're just not doing the first step because you've already done it, which is do a few projects first. So you already have that, you're already off to the races. Now all you need to do is get a team together, get yourself a plan, and start importing plants into a template. So that's that. So once you start making a template, you need to think about how you're going to organize it. So you can have multiple templates. You don't need just one. For instance, I have organized my templates for plants by having just a template for street trees. So trees that are fairly large and usually salt tolerant, that sort of thing, things that would be good for a boulevard planting plan. And then I've done a template for storm ponds, and that included all native plants because I knew I always needed native plants in the storm pond. And then I'd have one for commercial, which would have a lot of ornamental plants as well as some native plants, but a lot of sizes that are more specific for that type of project. And then maybe even a daycare. So I would know that in that template, I only have plants that are non-toxic and good for that kind of setting. But you can organize it any way that makes sense for the types of projects that you use. So for instance, you might have several templates for different plant characteristics like native or drought tolerant, or you might have it by actual plant type. So you might have one with shade trees and one with conifers, because one thing to remember is that when you add plants to a template and then you bring them from the template into a project, subcategories won't import. So if you find it very important that you have, say, grasses all in a subcategory, maybe you make a grass template so you can add all of those in first, grab them all and put them over into a subcategory in your actual drawing project. You can also, if you're a more worldwide firm, organize it by different continents or different regions that you work in typically, or if you do a lot of work all across North America, maybe you organize it by zones. So that's just some ideas to get the ball rolling in terms of how you're going to start organizing your templates. I usually suggest if you're a sole practitioner, you'll probably be just fine with one template of plants that you use on a regular basis. If you do a lot of projects that are of different types or in different regions, you're probably going to need more than one template. So keep that in mind, organize it out, put it out on paper how you're going to organize it first before you dive too far into it. So speaking of diving into things, we're going to dive into creating a template. So the first thing I'm going to do when creating a template, I've got this project here that I'm going to start. We're going to work on this later. But first, when creating a template, I don't want to create a template while in another project. So what I'm going to do is start a new drawing. And it doesn't matter what units it's in. I'm just opening up one of my blank templates. Or sorry, it does matter what units it is in. Just between metric and imperial. So if you are a worldwide firm and you do projects in both metric and imperial, you're going to need to do different templates for each because the trees are going to have different spreads in the program. So you're going to need to have a template for trees in feet and a template for trees in meters. So that's the only thing to think about when with units on starting one of these templates. So but basically what I need to do once I've opened up a new AutoCAD is I'm going to start a new project. So I'm going to go over here to FX Admin and over to Projects. And you can see this drawing isn't assigned to a project yet. So I'm going to click New because I'm going to create a new project template. But it's all templates start off as a project. So first thing, I'm going to give this a number. And we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Park Plants because that's how I've decided I'm going to organize my templates. And for this template, I'm going to create a template full of plants that I might use in a park project so that any park project that I use from now on, I can always pull plants from that template. Or if I'm a CAD manager or a project manager, I can tell my drafter, find the plant that's in the park plant template, and use that one as opposed to the one that might be somewhere else because you know that that one's going to have all the notes that you need. I'm not going to base it on any other templates, and I'm going to set my preference set. So I'm going to choose mine, and I'm going to say OK. So now I've started this, I can either go through the planting manager, either through this button, or I can press OK and go there directly in Land Effects. I'll go here. It's right over here. Okay, and so we've started a new project. We have no plants in here at all. So I'm going to show you a few ways where you can get some plants. So first, you can always do the good old add a new plant. So I'm going to go and grab a silver maple. Let's find that one. There we go. And I'm going to just add that to the project. This is just normal, basic stuff, adding plants to a project. And then I'm going to edit it in this template, and I'm going to edit it like it would be in any other project. So I'm going to grab a size for it. Let's say I'll grab this size, and these are going to be based on your sizes set in your preference set. So if you're using inches or feet, you're going to have your sizes in here, probably box sizes, depending on your region. And I'll do that one right there. And I'll just set a symbol width, and this is how I want it to come in every project, and a cost based on my region. So I'll talk a little bit about cost right now. What I suggest is grabbing a nursery catalog from your region. A wholesale nursery catalog is most likely what you're going to need, and then decide how you're going to set this cost. Are you a design build firm and you're not actually ever going to show the cost to the client? Then you should make this cost your costs, because that's probably what you're going to need for your own uses. So you'd put this cost at just the cost of the wholesale price of the tree plus any taxes that you might need to pay or anything like that. Then, but if you have, or you're not a design build and you're just a designer and you would actually give a cost estimate to your client, you would want this cost to probably be the cost of supply and install by a contractor. So you're going to add whatever increased factors for overhead and labor and all of that that you need to in order to arrive at a cost for all of that, and you'll put that in here, because any cost you put in here, it will automatically go into the whatever project you use this tree in, and you can quickly create a cost estimate. So that's just one way of automating things and making it a whole lot faster. I'm also going to assign my symbols. I want to assign all of them because I want this tree to be able to be used in basically any project that I want to use it in. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a 2D symbol. I'm going to go and grab a nice symbol here from the deciduous ones, something like this one. And we'll say OK. And I'm also going to assign a color symbol because in some of my projects in the future, I might want to use our color render feature in Land Effects. So I'm going to set that up right now, and we'll pick out one. This one looks nice. I think that'll be good for this project. We'll grab that color. And I also want to get a Sketchup symbol. I have one assigned. Usually Land Effects will assign one if there's one in our catalog that goes with the name. So there is one that has the silver maple name to it, but that's a face me tree. Maybe I want a 3D tree. So I'm going to go in here and browse and grab myself a deciduous tree that I think is going to fit well with this. This one looks a bit more acer-y, silver mapley. And you can always later, you can also assign a custom symbol to this if you want to use some of this components, SketchUp components from your own library instead of ours. You can absolutely do this. You're going to need to go to the Browse button in SketchUp and assign it and re-export it back into AutoCAD. We have a few webinars and power tips on how to do that you can look into. Okay, so I have all of my symbols set, and everything's set how I want it for this plant. I don't necessarily need any remarks, and that plant code looks good for this based on how I want to name things. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And so that's added in. So that's obviously you don't want to do this process and add a new plant for every single plant in your database or in your new template, because that would take forever. It would take a very long time. You probably have a lot. So that's why we had recommended you do a few projects first, because what you can do is just go into your other projects and grab them. And we'll do that right now. So I'll go into import, this import button down here, and I'm going to grab some plants from a project that I've already done. And you'll see it populates this list with all of the plants in the trees category. That's the one I'm in right now, so you won't see any shrubs in this list. So it will add any trees that are in this project. If you don't see anything here, it's because there's no trees in the project. So I'm going to go through, and you see I could have grabbed silver maple here. I'm going to grab a few others. I'm going to grab we'll grab that one, and I'll probably want, oops. I'm holding down the Shift key. I can also hold down the Control key to select more. So I'm holding down the Control or Shift key as I go through. So from now on, I'm going to hold down the Control key so I don't get a whole string of them. We'll add some white oak, some red oak. I use that a lot. And we'll just keep going through here and adding all the ones. Oh, I want to add the 60 of that. Actually, I'll create a new size of that. I'll probably use that one. And you can just keep going through and adding all the ones that you think you might use in a park. So we'll add all of those. And they've all been added. You can't see it yet, but as soon as you click done, they're all in there. And they all have the same data that they had before. So in this one, I already have a cost assigned to it because I assigned that during the project. If you didn't assign it during the project, you can assign it now. Everything's already set how I want it to be. Maybe I don't have a color symbol, or I do. Oh, I have everything already assigned to that. So that one's good to go. I can even, now that I'm in my template, I can refine this. Maybe that's not the color symbol I always want it to be. I'm going to change it now. Keeping in mind when I add it to a project, I can always change this in the project because it copies the plant to a project. Okay, so that one looks great. And I'm going to go through to shrubs and import a few shrubs as well. And you can choose more projects. You can add from as many times as you want to press the import button. You can choose from different projects. I'm going to go with actually that one. And holding down the control key, I'm going to add a few more. That looks good. We'll grab that one. And I'll grab a few grasses, but you'll see that the grass doesn't, even though it says it's actually in the grass category, it's not going to pull up in grasses once I bring it in. So I'm going to grab that one, and I'll grab that one, and we'll grab that one. Great. And all of those have been added. And I can keep going in shrub areas, and I can keep going in ground covers, and keep doing this and adding all the plants that I want. Once they're in here, it doesn't matter if you put them into a subcategory or not. I'd actually say don't do it when you're in a template because it's not going to matter in the end. Like I said before, subcategories won't follow through an import, so it makes no sense to put it in right now. So once all of those are in, what we're going to do is in a park, sometimes I might have different sizes of a tree, maybe in my plans. So what I want to do is add all of those sizes into here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go and grab my white pine, and we'll just on this white pine, we'll do a few different sizes of it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy, and I'm going to do it with a new code. And it doesn't matter what code it puts in here. You can change that later if you want to. It just needs to be different than the original code. So it's got a cost here on this one, but that happened to have been the cost of the 175 that I put in here, or sorry, that it's about 6 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and grab, put that at a 120 centimeter height is the new size that I want there. And I'm going to change this cost to reflect that new size based on my nursery catalog. So maybe that's only, $300 instead. We'll be optimistic and say it's 275. And what I'm going to do is actually give it a smaller symbol width as well. You can decide if you want to do this as, if you want to, something to think about, if you want the smaller trees to actually be physically smaller symbols. We'll go ahead and make that maybe just that's a pretty smaller one. I'll make a 4.5, so it'll be very different if they're next to each other. And then you can choose if you want the same symbol or you want a different symbol. I'm going to keep the same symbol, but it's going to be noticeably smaller. I'm going to actually put that to 4. So I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to keep the color symbol that's also assigned to it, and it's just going to be smaller for this smaller tree. And I'm going to keep the same Sketchup symbol. Great, so that's that, and I've added it. And now here's where you think about the code. So codes are, of course, very customizable, but you need to be smart about it when it comes to templates. I've used alphanumeric symbols before for boulevard trees, which needed 3-letter codes because only the 3-letter codes will fit in the alphanumeric symbols, and that worked great. But for the most part, I stick with 6-letter codes for plants that are typically planted among groups. So in a park, and that's just me. Of course, you can do however you want to. This is just kind of, I'm throwing out ideas in terms of what I've done in the past and what's worked. You can think about it and decide on what you think will work best for your firm. So yeah, basically what I would do is for the PINSTR, the full 6-letter code for this plant, I'd put that at the most common usage size of that particular type of tree. So for a conifer, for me, that would be about maybe 175 or 250. And then what I do is, as it got smaller from there or higher, however you need to do it, I would always have the same number in the code. So this PINST2 for the same size. So if I were to make a 120 centimeter height for this red pine, and I'll go ahead and do that, I would want to make sure if this is going to be a 120, and we'll just do that, that this is also going to be a 2. And we'll put this in, and so that's what it's going to do. And then if I were to make, say, an even smaller one, I'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to make a copy of this one, and we're going to do a new code, and it's going to be 3. And okay, so 3 is always going to be a 90 centimeter height, or do I have 60? We'll do a 60, we'll do 90. 3 is always going to be a 90 centimeter height. It's probably going to be potted at this point. Maybe it's 3 meters, and that's going to drop significantly. And then if I want to go even smaller, I'll make another copy. We'll do a new code, and 4 is always going to be my 60 centimeter, or that's 2 feet height. And that's going to be a seedling pretty much, maybe a little bit bigger than a seedling, but pretty close. And that's going to be very, very small, so maybe at 1.5, or that's 5 feet. So you can see I'm starting to get a system happening here for my white pines, where all of my 175s in my template are going to be full 6-letter codes, and all of my 120s are going to have a 2 at the end, and sorry, my 120s are going to have a 2 at the end. There we go, white pines. My 90s are going to have a 3, and it keeps going from there. So that's a great way of organizing them so that when you bring them into projects, you know they're always going to have the same kind of code, and you don't need to go changing the code all the time. Just an idea. Again, use what works best for you. Okay, so moving on from there, we've already added in all the trees that we want, all the shrubs that we've wanted. We've edited some of the plants to standardize the code convention, and now this looks good for me. It's a great start. That's as many plants as I want to add right now. Now all we need to do is save the template. So I'm going to go ahead and close the plant manager. And I'm going to go back into FX admin ribbon and go to projects. And you can see there's my my temporary template project, and I'm going to go ahead and save that as a template just down here. I'm going to enter a name of the template. I'm going to keep it as park plant. Try and keep it pretty easy because when you edit a template, if you'll have to edit a template through the this project here and then resave it as a template. If you enter the same name as the template that you already have, it will overwrite. But if you don't have that template and you click OK, it's just going to create your template. So I'm going to click OK here, and now you can see that template down here at the bottom under our list of templates. Great. So you can't really open a template to edit it at this point. We are looking at some improvements to the template system in a little later, maybe this year or next year. But for right now, that's all you need to do to create a template. You're all done. So before we move on to the next step, I did want to just mention one other thing with the codes, the 6-letter codes. If you haven't thought about them before or you're thinking of moving over to 6-letter codes, one quick uh, positive for it is that it's really easy for anybody to read a plan if you think about it, even if it's just for the first time. I know that if they know some botanical names, and a contractor, any good contractor or a municipal landscape architect that's checking your plan should know botanical names. It's really easy to read the plan with all the codes and labels coming out from the plants. Just something to think about with those 6-letter codes. But other than that, I think we're at a point in time that would be great for some questions if we have one.
See, well, yeah, we got a lot of good questions. I was actually able to answer all of them between myself and Jake, but I'm gonna pull up the list here. Whoops, where'd they go here? Here we go. Um, one good comment. Just yeah, you did mention the thing about when importing plants, the subcategory doesn't hold. And very good question of why. And it's just because currently as designed, of course, the subcategory that you're in is what's going to be assigned to whatever you import. And we do have we will be adding a little checkbox, that dialog box. So that's what Amanda was showing there. And gosh, I guess I think that's gonna square it away. If someone wanted to get Amanda's answer rather than mine or Jake's, go ahead and chime in again. But otherwise, keep on trucking.
Okay. Um, Great. I think I saw a question just happening in the chat area. Remember to put all your questions in the Q&A box, but I think it was, can we use three-letter system with, you use three-letter system with upper and lowercase letters? Can you basically use lowercase, or is it only uppercase allowed? If you go to your planting preferences up here, you can find it here in the FX admin, or if you go to FX planting, you can find it over here. You can find all your preferences for planting in this toolbar as well. You can choose if you capitalize the code or not. Okay. So we'll move on and we'll actually use this template. So let's go back over to our park plan and we're going to start using this template. So I don't have a project assigned to this drawing yet. So the first thing, of course, I'm going to do is create a project. I've already assigned a scale. Again, scale is going to be reflected on whatever units you're using. Check out some of our basics to planting webinars in order to find out what you need to do for that. We'll go over to, FX admin and over to projects, and we're going to start a new project. And I'm just going to give it a code and a name or a number. I'm actually going to put in some letters, and I'm going to give it, this one's called Height Hills Park. It's always fun naming imaginary parks. Okay, so now important on this, one thing that I always recommend is that you try not to base a project on a template. So you do see this template here, but it's usually best not to base it on that template. And the reason is that if I were to base this project on the park plant template, it would bring in all of the plants in that list. And I'm not necessarily using all of the plants in my template. That's the point of a template. It has all the plants that I would ever use. If I were to put all of those in there, it'd be really confusing. You'd have to scroll through a lot of plants to find exactly the one you want. So don't do that. Don't select a template here. There are times and places to do that. This is probably not one of them. You do want to set your preference set, of course, and I'm going to say OK. And there we go, it's all set. So now what I want to do is go into my plant manager and I'm going to start adding plants. I'm not going to press new at all unless I'm adding a plant that's not in my template and I probably then want to add that plant to the template later. But right now what I'm going to do is do pretty much exclusively import. I'm going to go down, find my template down at the bottom, so it's really easy to scroll to it and find it. I'm going to say OK, and that brings in all the trees available to use on this one, including all the different sizes of white pine that I created. So what I'm going to do is just add a few select ones. So I'm going to grab a 175, and then holding down the Control key, I'm going to select a few others. I do a 175 and 120s for my conifers, so a full size and a slightly reduced to give a little depth, or maybe I might do 90s. I'll just do the 190 for that one. And what else did I need? I needed silver maple, and that's probably it for trees. So I'm only bringing in the trees that I need. I'm going to add those to my project and click Done. Great, they're all in there, and they're all going to have exactly all of the settings that I set to them before, including all of those symbols. So I'm going to cancel out that. I'm going to go and grab my shrubs now. Same process as before. Go to Park Plant Template, or whatever your template's called, and grab the ones that you want to use. Holding down the Control key again while I go through and click the ones that I want. I just want these 3 actually. Great, and I'm going to add those to the project, and done. And now I can go around and start placing these. So I'm going to grab my silver maple, and I'm going to go in place. And I'm just gonna, there we go. I'm going to do a few shortcuts here. If you haven't checked out the plant shotgun tools, I'm using those right now just to quickly place some groupings of plants. Do one there, and probably one here. This is a great tool. We have a great power tip on it in the power tip section of our website. Go ahead and check that out. There we go, and I'll add a few of my conifer trees. I'm going to right click to go back to my plant manager. I'm actually going to dock it to go a little bit faster even. We'll grab some of these white pines, and I'm going to double click it to start placing it. Oh, I didn't actually, looks like I didn't have that on there. We'll go back to conifer and grab that. And I know which one's supposed to be the white pine. That looks good. Yep, that's supposed to be it. Okay. I think it was just I had some old, an old type of symbol assigned to this, so it was asking me. So I'm just going to do a little grouping here, just one big one. And I right click there to end that. And I'm going to go and grab the smaller one and do a few up front, maybe a grouping, a few groupings. I'm just tapping the number keys to kind of grab a few more and placing those around. There we go. I'll just move that one over. There we go. And kind of just placing a few around. I'm going to use the match plant and match that one. And I have my snap on. That was a little, oh, it looks like snap's still on. There we go. And just place a few more around. There we go. So I have a few trees. We'll go over to shrubs. We'll grab a few shrubs. That's a bit big for that shrub. I'll just go into block data and make it a bit smaller. Aha, that is a bit big for that one. There we go. Match plant. These are just a few tips if you haven't tried this before. I'm actually going to, instead of match plant, I'm going to try an array right there. or maybe a rectangular array. And snap that in. So we've quickly created a little bit of a design. I won't go too far into it. Maybe I'll just add a few grasses along here. Actually, I'll use the shotgun part of that. So you can see all the shotgun keyboard commands right there. So I'm going to go into V for copy along a line. Place that right there. Should go into it. Oh, I must not have put in the right one. I must have, let's try that from here. Ah, that's why I put in 8 instead of 0.8. See, sometimes it's user error. Just sometimes. So I'm going to arc around here and arc around there. Go back to line and just quickly put some of these in. And I've quickly got a plan going based on my concept. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time to flesh out a full plan, but using the tools, you can usually kind of keep that down to a minimum. But using the template, I very quickly got all of my plants in here. So now what I'm going to do is just go to my plan. I can start calling a few of these out with my labels because they already have all of their data to them. And I can really quickly go and put in a schedule. I've already got all of my data set to my schedule template, so I'm just going to go ahead and accept those defaults and put in my template. And now I already have a plan and a template and a schedule all go in here with everything in here, all of the information. If you have notes, you might have your schedule template, which is located. If you haven't seen it here, you can set the schedule defaults over here. All of that's basically put together. So now what we can do, you can edit any of these plants. So if you want to use a slightly less than standard note, you want to keep the note that's in the template as the template note, but you want to add something a little different, you can do that. You can go into here and edit a plant using block data or through the plant manager, and you can add a new note, remarks, I don't know, 8-foot branch height, anything like that that you want to add into here. It's not going to affect what's in the template, so you don't need to worry about that because, again, this is a copy. Yeah, so basically now what I'm going to do really quickly is we're going to go through that editing this template that we've already created, and then we're going to print a plant list from the template. So the one thing that you want to keep very, very clear, and I mentioned this at the very beginning, and I'm going to mention it one more time, is that you do not want to open a template in an actual drawing, because if you go into your FX admin and you go into your projects and you're like, oh, I added a new plant in this project that I want to add back to my template. What I'm going to do is just open up my template and quickly do that. Well, now you have a problem. If you try and open up this template project here that's editable, and you open it here, it's now actually open on this project, and you might not realize it, and you might save this project, and now it's permanently attached to the template, and then somebody else comes into it, and they start deleting things because they're like, oh, why'd this person add all these plants to this project? I don't need all of these, and they start deleting it, and you have no idea how many times I've seen this happen. Please don't do it. All you need to do, start a new drawing, and you can see with the docked plant manager, it's following me. Open a new drawing, then open your template, the editable template, and open it there. And now you can see all of your template stuff. Just say OK. And I can go ahead and import any plants that might be in that project, this Height Hills Park that I made, or maybe another project that I made. I want to add them in. I can go ahead and go in here and, oh, now I want to add this tree in. Yeah, and I'll just add that to the project and click done. It's now added into the template, but the editing template. So we're going to go back into projects. I'm in the park plant. I'm going to save as a template again. I'm going to type in exactly what the template is called, park plant. I'm going to say OK. And I must have spelled it differently. It will normally overwrite. It will overwrite when you go to do this. So that's all you need to do. If this happens to happen, you can always delete one of them. Anyways, from there, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I bet it's just because you're on cloud data.
Oh, that's it,
So
isn't it?
get that squared.
See, I test
Hmm.
things, and sometimes they break for me, but they won't break for you. Um, so basically, what I'm going to do now is just do a plant list of that, and that's really easy. That's all you need to do is go to your schedule, and you can do it to a spreadsheet if you want to, or a table or a drawing, however you want to do it. But the important part is to click Entire Palette. And what that's going to do is include all the plants in your palette, and it's not going to put quantity. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. I probably should have put a scale to this. I'm going to put scale to this plan. OK. Or actually, I'll just do it to a spreadsheet. That makes more sense. Entire palette. OK. I'll save this over here on my desktop for now. Park plants. And I'll go grab that. Enjoy the scenery while I just grab this one so you can see. There we go. And you can see it over here. I have a full list of all of the plants in my template that I can now print out from Excel or whichever one you want. And you can always, obviously, I didn't change any of what was going to be included, but you can include the costs of each of those plants to include in here, whatever you want to do. Okay, so that is basically everything that I want to cover except for one last thing, which was, okay, now you've created a template, so now what do? You need to write down the standards that you set. So we talked about you need to decide how you're going to decide what cost a plant is going to be. Write down how you decide what cost a plant is going to be. What nursery do you base it off of, or do you base it off of contractor prices that you've gotten before? Write all of that down. And how do you choose what symbol? How do you choose the code? All of that. Write down your standards, save them in a common place so anybody can access them and do it correctly when they try and add something to the template. You want to also assign a template manager. So somebody who's going to be in charge doesn't necessarily have to do all the work, but just needs to make everybody clear that if you're in a multi-person firm, as opposed to a sole practitioner, that if you want to add a plant to a project or add a plant to the template or change one of the plants in the template, like change something about it, change the code, change the notes, you need to talk to the template manager first before you do that. They say, okay, yes, that fits with our company's template standards. Go ahead and do that. And tell me when you're done. I'll check it, make sure it's good, and we're golden. Everything's fine. Add new plants as you use them, import from projects just like we showed, and then you want to always periodically update your plant template with new prices, and also just the template manager should go through and check that things are still organized. And yeah, just below is kind of the roles of a project manager. So the templates are not any different. You don't want to leave them alone. You leave them alone and let people do what they want with it. Please don't blame me when you get a black hole of plants as your template. So yeah, that's the end of everything that I wanted to talk about. Hopefully there's a lot of great questions that got answered or would still need to be answered. If you want me to go over anything again, please write that in the Q&A box right now.
Really good questions. Something that we totally forgot, I admit. But we had a couple people who are simultaneously assuming that their plant template includes their custom plant symbols that they're used to. And so they were assuming that this webinar was also going to cover, saving the plant symbols. So we can at least kind of show that and where they can find more information on that.
Yep. Absolutely. First, I'll show you where to find more information on it. So we'll go here. And under here, I'm just going to do type in plant symbol. So we have a few different pages, but I think add new plant symbols is going to be the one that we want. And that's going to go through how to add your own plant symbols to land effects. So your plant symbols can be any size. It's basically going through all the rules. I will very quickly show you how to do that. And yeah, so this is going to go through all of it, everything that you need to do. It's saying, obviously you're going to need to name things on certain layers. This guide will show you how to do all of that, but you're going to use the save block command. So if you have a custom symbol, let's go through here, and I'm going to make a custom symbol. So I'm going to go through here. Maybe you decide, I really like this symbol, but the style that we show things in our company is that this should have a little circle, additional circle in it, or another line, or something like that. All I'm going to do is just explode this one, and so that I can create a new line. So I could go here, and I'm going to match property, or sorry, make that current. Great. And I'm going to add a circle. So this is what your plant symbol looks like. Of course, it can look like anything that has lines and or hatches. I'm going to go to Save Block, which is under FX Site. Under Blocks, we're going to go to Save Block. First, it's going to ask for an insertion point. I'll pick somewhere in the middle. You can snap if you have a snappable point. Select objects. I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to right-click to accept or press Enter. Then what you need to do is go to your Land Effects installation. So mine is under my C drive. Yours might be under a shared folder on your server. I'm going to go to Blocks, and then Graphics, and then Planting. And then this is a tree, so I'm going to save it under Trees. And I might, you can save it into the simple category with everything else if you want to, or you can create your own folder for people in your office to use it, and I'll name it O1 so it pops up at the top, and I'll just call this my LF Land FX symbols, do underscore symbols. Great. We'll go into there and we'll save this tree. I'm going to call it tree LFX 001. Or you can name it tree dash if it's a palm, or maybe it's specifically a symbol for a maple tree. You could call it tree dash Acer 01 or Acer SACR for Saccharinum. You can kind of name it like that however you want, and then I'm going to click Save. It's going to save that in. It's created a little slide preview of it for me that I'm going to see, and I'm going to go ahead, and that's everything here is okay for me. So I'm going to say okay. And that's saved in. And now what I can do is if I go to my plant manager, oh, I already have it open, and go to a tree, and for that Acer, I'm going to edit that. I can go in here and you can now see I have my LFX symbols here to choose from. And so I can set that custom symbol to it. And I can then also do this in my template. So I'm going to press OK. I can go to my template, which is still open over here. I can do the same thing to the silver maple in here. I'll just give it that symbol in here, say OK. And now if I import that silver maple into any other project, it's going to have that custom symbol. Did that answer that question?
And then, of course, check that documentation. There's also a method of pulling in a whole folder of symbols ready to go if they're all ready. But certainly, you absolutely can bring in your custom symbols. We just, yeah, we didn't, as we were prepping this webinar, we made this more about the plant list and not the symbols. But of course, you absolutely can with the software. And that takes us to time to turn into a pumpkin. So, hey everybody, thank you so much. Keep sending us more questions if you have them, and otherwise, have a great weekend.